I just want to thank everyone for coming back to Sarita Talks. I am just so very much excited when I have someone with shared lived experience, someone who's also been behind the walls, but has come out and rocked it like a hurricane. Na, 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 na. So, Kelly, this is his second visit with us. And I mean, it was just so good to have him on. And I talk about it all the time. You had said something about when you first got out. I mean, you were out here working like we do. We work harder than anybody, and you were bussing tables, and they told you you weren't aesthetically pleasing. Well, this man who they said this about now has how many recovery homes?
4.
4 homes, authentic recovery. Kelly Mahana, it is a pleasure to have you back. Please tell us a little bit more about yourself for those who weren't with us last time. Shame on you. But yeah, recap us.
Yeah. Yeah, thank you for having me. I appreciate the opportunity. Yeah, so like I guess I want to get more into like my early years because we didn't
Mm-hmm.
really touch on that last time I was on
Yeah.
here. I grew up in extreme poverty in Southern California. I got bounced around from family member to family member, and then my dad got murdered in front of me when I was 6. I caught my first felony at age 10. So, like, I've been in the system my whole life. I've been in every single group home around. Eventually, I've been in every group home in Denver, Colorado, like the state of Colorado, juvenile corrections, so I didn't just make a mistake per se, and go to prison when I was 17. That was the lifestyle. And that was all I knew. And that was, prison wasn't like a bad thing. It was a goal.
Right.
But I say that to say, like, that's how I actually started believing in myself out here, is because I realized, like,
Okay.
oh, not only did I want to go to prison, I wanted to go to the highest custody level prisons, and like the so called scary yards, because that's where you get all your respect and stuff. And so when I got out here, um, what first of all, I wasn't changed. I didn't change in prison. I didn't find any religion. I didn't stop politicking. I didn't stop getting high. My change totally came when I was released from prison. What did I actually get some opportunities in prison that helped me get out and gave me the opportunity to, and I don't even want to say change. I feel like I spent my whole life with everyone telling me you need to change, like something was
Mm-hmm.
just wrong with me. um but what I realized was like I could harness my, I guess, the things that I was strong in, like my confidence and my like unwavering ability to be like, I could do that. I don't care what anyone says.
Yeah.
That like gang member mentality of like, bro, I'm better than everyone. No one can tell me
Mm-hmm.
nothing. I'm gonna make it happen. I was able to use that to create success out here. You know,
Absolutely. And that's how it goes. People think that when you go to prison, like you just crawl up underneath a rock and nothing's really happening. That's where you find yourself. Either you find yourself or you lose yourself. And I believe when you came on, you told us how we used to call him like the old head, would come and impart some knowledge and said these walls are gonna break.
yeah. He
Or what,
said, no. He said, you'll break before these walls ever do.
how do you say it?
That's exactly what he said. He said, you will break before these
Yep,
walls ever
that's right.
do. Yeah. And I didn't understand or
Mm-hmm.
comprehend at that
And
time.
you have to
I
have a
think,
certain mm-hmm.
well, I just think nowadays, mostly my heart is filled with sorrow for the people that I know who will never come home, and for the
Mm-hmm.
for what we have given each other, right? And when I say we, I'm talking about the background, the demographic that I come from. Southern California.
Mm-hmm.
My mom is Mexican. We're really prideful people, but we're prideful in a lot of the wrong ways, right? So instead of saying like, "Hey, bro, that fool looked at you sideways, go shoot him
Yeah.
or go take off on him," we could use our strength and our resilience and all that to create wealth, to create just things for ourselves, so we don't just have to live, struggle, misery, pain, death. Like, I'm starting to
Right.
realize now that like you can
And
have a good life.
yeah, and that's the cycle.
That is the cycle.
Absolutely. And want to touch back on when you were young and everybody's like, you need to change, you need to change, you need to change. But were they giving you the tools to change? Were they taking you out of that environment and giving you a chance if at 10 years old you're in and out of the system?
So actually, the only people who were like telling me I needed to change were like professionals when I was in these group homes or juvenile facilities. And like when what they wouldn't sit down with us and be like, yo, what's going on? What's the home life like? Why did you do this? They'd be like, you need to change or you're gonna be dead or in prison. And that was the end of it. On the other side of that was when I was in juvenile prison,
Right.
they used to tell us every single day of the week, 85% of you guys are going to die in prison. 15, like they break down these numbers to us.
That's what.
Yeah,
Mm-hmm.
like 7 days a
And that's
week.
a
We didn't
self-fulfilling prophecy. Yeah, if you
like
tell
we
a
didn't
kid all the time you're going to prison, you're going to prison, you're going to prison.
right. Well, they didn't programs. They didn't have like programs on weekends, but they would still tell us that on weekends.
Mhm.
So I guess I just
So every day they're pumping in your head that you're going to prison.
every day, and sure enough, every
That's
single
crazy.
person. It is crazy. But what's crazier is every single one of us who were in juvenile prison, I saw in prison. And we all had like
Mhm.
25 or more years. Like none of us had
Wow.
like 2, 3, 5, 10, 50. It was all 25 or more. And then when I say 25, I think that's the lowest number I ever saw from someone I was in juvenile prison with.
Wow. And how much time did you have?
I had 60.
Exactly. So this young man who at 6 years old, you see your father get shot, you're raised in the gang atmosphere of SoCal, move out here, 10 years old, in and out of justice involvement. You were failed by the system. You were failed completely. And at 10 years old, you're not making big boy decisions. And when you had that 60-year sentence, that was at 17.
Yeah.
You're not making big boy decisions, and I remember you telling me a little bit about your case, and it was doing with gang involvement, correct?
Yeah.
Yeah, and I'm sure there were other people on your case, correct?
Yeah.
And who was the youngest person on this case?
There was one person who was younger than me.
And how many people were older than you?
Everyone else.
Exactly. Exactly. So, I mean, and your ideal getting to the, what we used to call was a big girl camp when you go to prison, or to get to that level 5 yard, was that's your version of respect. But you were able to turn that around and gain your respect out here, because it's hard to go from someplace where you're calling the shots to somewhere out here where it's hard to find a job and nobody, you know what I'm saying? Like, and here was a problem, and I'll just, talk a little bit about me. Fast money. I always wanted some fast money. I thought I was at the pinnacle of success. I was either Pablo Escobar or I was digging on the floorboards. Okay. It was either up or down. There was no in between. And I had to realize, through conditioning of, being in prison and stuff like that, hey, man, I got to get out here and work harder than anybody else, because now I'm a felon. And now I'm a class A felon, a dangerous felon. And, like, after a certain point, you just got to grow up. Like, my respect doesn't come out of, who I'm getting this from. It comes out of who I am. So when you turn that corner, tell me where you were and what you were thinking.
It was hard. It was so hard. It's still hard sometimes now today, right?
Yeah.
Because that's your whole identity for your whole life. And so when you come out here and you don't have nothing and you don't have familiar support and you're like making a couple dollars an hour and like you can't afford rent anywhere, even in the crappiest, garbage, shittiest, worst neighborhood, it's
Mm-hmm.
really hard to stay focused, you know?
Yeah.
And I was blessed and lucky enough to get a job at the shelter. So
Nice.
basically I could just work there 16 hours a day, every single day of the week. I could eat there. I could even sleep there. Like me and one of my homies, we'd set up a cot in the back and we just like take turns napping.
Yeah.
But that's what was able to keep me going. And then I got another full-time job and I just worked two full-time jobs. And I think what had happened for me at that point was initially I was like, fuck it, I'll just go back to prison. You know what I mean? Who am
Mhm.
I gonna let down? No one. You know, it'll just be
Yeah.
me being me.
Uh,
Um, but then when I was able to, I chatted with the older homeboy, and he was like, "Damn, bro, you just did 13 years. Like, you don't want to like be out here for a minute
and
and
live life. Yeah.
And I was like, "Well, what do you mean?" Like, to me, life was like being incarcerated because I was in
Mhm.
youth corrections before prison, and I've still to this day, I've been out almost 5 years now, but I've spent the majority of my life incarcerated, you
Mhm.
know? So I didn't understand. Like, to me, life was in there. Out here was where we came for a few weeks vacation before we went back.
So you get your stories up about all the fun stuff you did right before leading up to you coming back to prison.
Exactly.
Mhm.
And then what happened was like I got scared, like, holy shit, I don't want to be an old dude in prison. Like, I don't, because when I hit my 30s in prison, I was already an old dude in prison because prison's a young man's world,
Yes, yes.
you
And
know?
I mean,
So,
and it's sad too. I'll just say on the women's side, because I mean, I got so many friends that 60, 70 years old, and they got, young roommates and they want to stand up for, and it's just sad. It's sad. After a certain point, you age out of those behaviors. You age out of wanting that for your life. So you touched on not having any money, can't afford the crappiest place to live. And I feel like it's kind of leading us into what you do now just a bit. But I just love it that you've taken something, and I feel the same way. I used to tell people when I went to jail and then turned into prison, somebody could have had a baby, and by the time I left, your baby was in high school. So you know what I'm saying? That's a big chunk of life. And I also break it down like this. Now, this audience, listen to this. When I went to prison, or excuse me, when I went to prison, it was President Bush. Then it was President Obama. He was a two-term president. That's 8 years. Then it was Trump, and when I left, it was Biden. It's ridiculous, ridiculous. But when I came out, I knew this. I wasn't going back. So you were in fighting an uphill battle, and never had a job. You said,
no.
how do you get to where you're at now?
So I like I would say, it's just that confidence from being a gang member my whole life and like politicking and like, although I am Hispanic, everyone always
Yeah.
assumes I'm white. So I always felt like I had more to prove and like I had to show you like, homeboy, I'm not a white boy. I
Mm-hmm.
do handle my business and you're not going to disrespect me. And so I really just took that confidence that I always used to like do dumb
Yeah.
shit, and I used that, and then I quickly
Mm-hmm.
realized, like, out here, that's why I get so frustrated when I see my homeboys get out and I see people get out who are like stone cold hustlers and got the gift of gab, and they're just like any room. That's what I tell my whole team now, because my whole team, we're all black, we're all brown, we've all been to the
Mm-hmm.
penitentiary. We've all struggled like our whole lives. And I tell them, bro, name one room any of us walk into
Mm-hmm.
where we don't change the atmosphere. It's us. If we're in a bad mood, we make that room fucking miserable.
That's right.
But if we're on that day, we make everyone smile and happy and come out of their shells. And so
Yes.
what I realized,
Yes.
like in this business space, is like, bro, we are way more capable in this business space. Like we can turn shit up and turn it out and get paid. You know how many people I've met that own
Mm-hmm.
businesses that are just like stupid,
Mm-hmm.
quite frankly, or like have no clue of what's going on, and like
Yeah. Or they don't have
I'm
any
just like
grit.
most people are here
Yeah. That's
because
something.
someone else
Listen,
is
if
there.
you Yeah, or here's the thing. You come up against one stumbling block, one adversity, and people that don't have the experience that we have, they're ready to give up. They're ready to run for the hills. Like anything happens, like here's the thing. If I didn't have a dime, I'm going to go hit up a temp service. I'm going to go mow some lawns. Like I put my hair up underneath a ball cap and hey, can I take out your trash? Because we grit, we get out here, we fight harder than anybody because we know what it's like to have nothing. So I'm just telling you, when you encounter that prisoner, that ex-convict, that felon, that offender, even though there's nothing offensive about us, we'll be the best workers you ever had. Because I swear, just like this man said, the powers that, and I say this all the time, especially in relationships, the powers I use for evil, I use for good now. All that energy that I put into doing the wrong thing. And I feel like this is the same with you. The same energy I put into hustling and, getting fast money, I put it into doing things the right way now. And it's enabled me to help people on such a broader level. We were talking before we got on this podcast about how good it feels to be able to help somebody coming out and show them the example. I mean, I'm trying to be like you, Kelly, when I grow up. Tell us about it.
This is what I tell everyone all the time on my team, right? Everything we both just said is 1,000% true. Where I get frustrated is because the people on our team, they'll be like, well, fuck, I haven't made $1 million. I've been out of prison for a month. So what I'm trying to get, what I'm trying to wrap everyone's mind around is like, bro, it took me 3 years and 9 months of working 2 full-time jobs.
Wow.
To
That's
get my
80
first
hours
house.
a week. That's 80 hours a week.
It was more than 80 hours. That didn't include commute times or nothing. That was just the time I was dedicated to the work. That didn't include when my boss was like, you have to stay or you're fucking fired.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? To get
and people do have a tendency to want to mistreat us because of our background.
Absolutely. They'll talk down to us. They don't look at us as professionals. They'll try and make us do all the grunt work. But this is the point where I came to with myself. I said, you know what, bro? I sat up on my hands for 13 years this last time I was in the joint. Okay. I went from 17 to 32. Before that, I was in youth corrections twice. If I can sit up in there and fist fight and gang bang and get high and do all this shit for nothing, I can work my ass off for a goal that will make me never have to work again for however long it takes. And it didn't even take me 5 years. It didn't even take me 4 years.
Yes.
And so it's just getting people to see that, like, sometimes you have to, but we're so used to like not being disrespected and people can't talk to us like that and fuck you motherfuckers and I ain't doing this shit for no $10 an hour. But it's like, bro, how many motherfuckers do I know that were sitting up in the joint trying to suck the man's dick for 10 cents a day, bro?
Yeah.
I ain't doing that. Bro.
Yeah, it's super humbling too, because let me tell you, I had what was somewhat a good job working in a prison factory making men's boxer shorts because there's 22 male prisons and they sell them to the state facilities. I had to make 276 crotches. That was my job. I was on the crotchular area. That's what I used to say. 276 pairs a day for 50 cents an hour for 10 hours a day. So that's $5. And I've been in the seat all day sewing boxer shorts. So for them to go sell them for $4 and some change a piece. So I know what it's like to be humbled. And I also know what it's like to come out here and want people, and here's another thing. Like, you got out 5 years ago. People out here are so disrespectful. They just don't get it. And it's just crazy. And I think about it all the time. Like, if I was a lesser person, I don't know if I would have survived. I don't know if I would have been able to, just keep rolling with the punches. I went to a job fair and I didn't even have new shoes. So I went digging through these donations and I ended up finding the best job that day, but I didn't know it. And when I walked around the corner, I just busted out in tears because I felt like everybody knew I was wearing somebody else's shoes. You know what I'm saying? Like, it's a humbling experience to come out. And I used to tell people too, you're talking about they've been out a month, talking about they need $1 million. Don't have unrealistic expectations. You've got to put in the work. You're not going to get out and push a brand new whip and live in a brand new house and have all that stuff, man. You got to work for it. And it's humbling. Because let me tell you this, I went and worked at a call center at nighttime. On the weekends, I was doing medical transport. I had to be up at 4 a.m., drive to Jeff City, take it to St. Louis. It was a 4-hour trip. And at 4 a.m., I'd be like, come on, Jason Statham, get up. You're the transporter. You're the transporter and don't open the package. It's biohazard. It was specimens. So for a long period of time, I worked 7 days a week. Because I couldn't have it any other way. And while I was in prison, I was lusting for a job that didn't have me sitting at an industrial sewing machine all day, not wanting to go to the bathroom because I got to hit my quota.
Yeah. No, I think that's just it. If we can show people that, like, if you're able to withstand, because I'll say it another way. Everyone in the penitentiary ain't a gangster. Everyone in the penitentiary ain't a killer. And I don't care what everyone says out here. Like, you weren't pushing that hard line like you tell the world out here, bro. There was dudes who probably pushed up on you, pressed you, and you tucked tail. You can do that
Mhm.
out here for a greater cause. Not that
That's
that
right.
shit happened every day or whatever, but
Yeah.
at the same time, like I finally got to
Yeah.
a space where I was able to like focus more on my wants, my needs, and my desires than what I thought everyone around me would think of me if I didn't act or
Mhm.
behave a certain way. And you know what?
That's
I'm
right.
better for that. Because if I didn't have to work all those hours at those shitty jobs,
Oh,
like
yeah.
I wouldn't be able to do this because it's hard. You know what I mean? It's hard.
Yeah.
And I had to
Yeah.
prepare myself to be in a position to win. But we are more capable. We are able to. It's just us convincing ourselves and not letting what the world has told us, and then reverting
Mhm.
back to those old, gangbanging is an addiction. Outside of getting high, just being from a hood and representing your shit and like having that
Mhm.
sense of pride and like not taking nothing from no one, it feels good. But do you want to feel good that you didn't let someone
Listen, I'm
disrespect you while
nodding.
you're
Clearly, wait, I'm just like, yeah, yeah. I'm not even a gangbanger. You're like, it's gang banging, it's an addiction. I'm like, yeah, yeah. I think, yeah, you gotta represent your block. Do you see me represent a block? Absolutely not. But I get what you're saying.
because you got to put that energy
I'm
and
just
effort
nodding
into
along, like,
yourself.
yeah,
Well, you can get that's the thing. We can
absolutely,
always we can
absolutely.
always
And
get a shitty job because there's people out here who won't do what we will do. And so I think what happens oftentimes is we forget all the pain and all the anguish and all the bullshit we felt when we were locked up and we were going through it. And we're
mm-hmm,
like, we know we're worth more and we know we deserve more. We just don't
mm-hmm.
know how to get from point A to point B. So what happens is we feel so defeated in these shitty jobs that we're just like, fuck that, I'm gonna go hit a lick.
Uh-huh.
That lick
Or
turns into the
or we're
next 30 cents.
or like we were talking about, you get into the transitional house or the halfway house, and they want some money. They're going to want $150 from you a week that you don't have. Next thing you know, you're mired in debt.
Well, that's
You can't
true.
find a
In
job.
Denver,
Huh?
it's way in Denver,
It's
it's at
way more
least
in Denver.
at least
And,
three
and
hundred.
here's the thing that's ridiculous is you want us to get out and be productive citizens. I'm a class A felon. I have a second-degree murder, armed criminal action. I had a problem getting my business license to be a keynote speaker just through the city that I live in, but the state gave it to me with no problem. So here's the issue. If I can't find a job due to my case, because I do get turned down before I even get a chance to go talk to you, before I can even tell you who's supporting me, because you see that on that paper and you just assume something. You don't know what put me in that position. But here's the thing, either I served my time or I didn't.
Yeah.
So once I get out, give me a chance. And people are set up for failure. So now you're in this crappy job. All you know is prison. Or here's the thing I like to tell people, even if you're free or if you just got out, think about somebody who's been in there for 20 years and they wish they had your opportunity. And if you've never been, think about somebody who's been in there 20 years and wishes they had your opportunity too. So, I mean, you're putting in the work, Kelly. I'm putting in the work, but you're at the point now where all that work is starting to pay off or has paid off. Tell us about it.
I'm doing
Yeah.
really well. Like financially, I'm doing really, really well. I'm doing better than most people.
Yeah.
And it just feels so amazing because I don't, when I got out, I didn't know how I was ever going to be able to live out here. And I
Mm-hmm.
didn't know that I had like a skill set or I brought anything that was going to be able to let me live.
Mm-hmm.
And so I like to inspire. I try and get everyone on my team. I'm always talking with them about real estate. I'm trying to help them with their credit, and I'm trying to tell them like how to how to create generational wealth. Even if
Yeah.
you don't want to create generational wealth, I'm trying to show them how to live for free and then make a couple dollars on top of that. Like outside of work.
Absolutely.
I'm like, yeah, there I might be a cool boss or whatever, but like if you wake up one day and you're like, man, fuck that. I don't want to go here. Do that. If you want to work with me, do that because you want to, not because you have to.
Right.
Even if you love it, because every day when I woke up and I had to work for anyone else, I felt like I was back in prison. So what I'm big on with my team is I'm big on trying to get them to get their credit where it needs to be. get
Yeah.
their 2 years tax returns, and then from there, let's buy you a duplex, a triplex, a
Yeah.
fourplex. You live in one unit, you rent the other 2 units out, so you're living for free and making a few $100. Do that again
Yeah.
a year from now. Really, you get to 3 or 4 of those, which isn't an astronomical number. It's just we've never
Mhm.
been taught how to do that shit.
Exactly. And for
But
you to teach somebody to realize the importance of it, who showed you?
YouTube. I
That's
learned from
right.
YouTube. Everything I learned initially, I learned on YouTube, and then I just stacked my money for 3 years and 9 months.
You hear
But I
that,
tell my
YouTube? Give this man some money. You hear that, YouTube? Kelly Mahana learned it all from YouTube. Sounds like an endorsement. Sounds like a check. I need one too. I love you, YouTube. All right, go ahead.
University of YouTube changed my life, literally.
Okay.
Because I knew like I was never gonna have no high paying job ever, no matter what
Oh.
I did. So I worked 2 shitty jobs, and that got me to around an average salary for my city. But
Mm.
what I could do was I could save, I could live in a shittier spot, and then boom. Like I tell my team, you get to 3 or 4 of those here in Denver, you're gonna be
Yeah,
wealthy. You're gonna be able to do whatever
that's
you
right.
want whenever you want. So if
That's
you can
right.
do it in Denver, you can do it in Missouri, you can do it anywhere. It's
And I
just
feel like when you give back, you get it back 15 times more. You know what I'm saying? And so your team, you're actually working with individuals and showing them this better way of life, correct?
hell yeah, because there's a ripple effect, right? Because
Yeah.
I'm only capable of reaching so many people, right? And
Hmm.
so when I'm showing, and here's the thing, I don't know if you're familiar with the 7 habits of highly effective people, but
Absolutely, I am. I've got
okay,
the book over here.
okay, yeah. So one of
Yeah.
the things is like think win-win, begin
Hmm.
with the end in mind. It's that scarcity mindset, get away with. There's enough food for everyone to eat.
That's
And so
exactly right.
what I try to show my team is like, hey, you guys are looking up to me, thinking I'm the man and I'm doing it, but you can
You're
do it too.
you're too.
You
That's
can
right.
do it too. And you could have your own shit, and you can change not just your life, but your children's life and everyone that comes behind you from your bloodline. So no one has to ever go through what you went through ever again. And it is possible. And all it is, it just takes a little bit of work, right? If you're going to be here, it's just like in the joint, right? If you got 20 years, you're going to be there for at least 10 years. Well, out here, unless you're planning on dying
Hmm.
tomorrow, you're going to fucking be here. Why not put yourself in that position? Put yourself in the position to win, and you can do it with the crappy job. You know what I mean? You just got to start learning how to. I don't even want to say learn to save,
That's
learn to
right.
spend less. Learn to spend less. Because once you get, and at that, I tell my people, like, bro, you can get a first time homeowners program. So you don't even have to bring that much to the table when it's time to go. And then from there, you're living free. Our biggest expense in life is rent,
Yep.
housing. If you're living for free, now you just gave yourself an extra,
Hmm.
basically a job, an extra job. And then if you can find a deal where you're making a little bit of money off of it, that's basically
This
like
man is
getting,
speaking knowledge.
that's like a 40% annual increase in your salary. You would never get that at any job. And then you do it again the next year, like
Not at
literally
all.
3 or 4 of those, and you'll be making over 6 figures a year in damn near any city in America. Your net worth will be well over $1 million.
Yeah. So
That's not
what
hard.
you're doing is you're teaching others that have been in the same place as you how to do it right
I just want my whole squad to
and how
win,
to make
bro.
something of themselves. Huh?
I just want my whole squad to win. I want them to win.
That's
You know what I
right.
mean?
You know what? And here's what I'm saying. Like the people that should be preaching what you're preaching are the ones, there should be someone inside saying, hey, you can do it. This is what you need to do. You need to have good credit. But that's a whole nother discussion. When people come out of prison, most of the time we have to fend for ourselves. He had to go to YouTube University. And let me tell you, anything someone told me that sounded right, I did it. Okay. I had to just get out here and do it myself. But the bigger issue is this: when people come home, like Kelly, you had a 50-50. You could have went either way.
I think it
I'm
was
glad
more
you
like
did
a
what you
90
did.
10. I think it was more like a 90-10. I was like 90% sure I was going to die or go back to prison.
Yeah, well, I'm so glad that neither one of those things happened because you know what? Just through conversations like this, we're able to learn so much even about ourselves. You don't have to be locked up to know that. Don't give up on yourself. Don't tell yourself that same negative self-talk like I'm never going to do it. I'm never going to do it because those nevers can turn into forevers. Like I'm forever going to do this. I'm going to always be out here getting it and I'm going to help people along the way. Is there anything you want to tell us before you go or before we get off here?
No, just thank you so much for having me. I appreciate you giving me space to speak. Thank you.
Absolutely. Well, Kelly is Authentic Recovery Homes, 4 homes, Denver, Colorado. He's looking to buy the 5th and the 6th. He would love it if somebody would just donate a home. Chuck, me too.
Yeah.
Me too. Anything you want to ask for our audience, people that are watching?
No, man, just believe in yourself. Never give up. Chase down your dreams. It's possible.
That's right. And let me tell you, if your dreams are not scary, there's something